Steven has a proven record in helping organizations leverage data to drive strategic insights and organizational growth.
We have the opportunity to support Canadian businesses coast to coast
Right.
as they go through different elements of this journey to try to unlock value from data.
Imagine the possibilities when AI can generate creative content, optimize business processes, and provide deeper insights into market trends. It's an exciting time for innovation.
This world of generative AI is very net new. There's different type of providers with different commercial arrangements, and they will use your data in different ways.
I want to take a pause here and connect with our audience on the importance of responsible AI practices. Establishing guidelines early in your AI journey is very crucial.
Now, when we've done this survey, the key word that we're getting it back is now 68% believe that generative AI is going to be an accelerator, right? So not a disruptor, but an accelerator.
Welcome to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, SK, and we are excited to bring you another engaging episode today. Our guest for this episode is Steven Karan, Vice President and Head of Insights and Data at Capgemini Canada. With over 15 years of experience in senior roles across technology, data, and analytics, Steven has a proven record in helping organizations leverage data to drive strategic insights and organizational growth. Join us as we delve into Steven's expertise and insights on the evolving landscape of generative AI. Good afternoon, Steven. Welcome to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful, SK. Thank you very much for having me here.
It's a pleasure. Steven, let's start by exploring your professional journey. You have had a dynamic career spanning over 15 years in various senior roles. What motivated you to enter the field of data and analytics, and how your journey led you to Capgemini?
Well, I'll tell you, I entered the field of data analytics in a very backwards way. I never anticipated getting into this area when I was doing my undergrad or anything of that nature. And I've always been a person who I consider myself to be a technologist, right? I love technology, always have. I was the type of kid that would open up a computer to see how it worked, try to take out different parts, put it back together. First several times failed and made my parents very upset, but eventually got the knack of it. And, I was always in the area of technology. I first started my career very much in the traditional kind of ERP space. And, when I started my career early 2000s, this was really where the information age was kind of booning and starting to mature a bit, right? And then after getting into the world of ERPs and technology for a while, I found out the bulk of my time was being spent on how to drive out the right data from these systems, right? How to get the data into our leaders' hands for insights and for actions and for decisions. And so that naturally kind of lent itself to migrating my career to be more focused on data and analytics. And I got into this space kind of early 2010s. And it was a really interesting time where, advanced analytics at the time is what we would call it, was starting to really take foothold. And I had the opportunity to kind of build for different businesses internal capabilities, internal COEs that very much was able to drive, data science and advanced analytics in a meaningful way, including leveraging, capabilities that were starting to merge like cloud, right? So after doing all of this internally for organizations, one of the senior individuals I was working to said, "Hey, Steven, why don't you try doing this for some of our clients? Because, the things that you've gone through, the outcomes that you've been able to enable are really valuable. And we can probably make more money off of you that way as well." So that naturally lend itself into moving into the direction of helping helping the clients that I work with to unlock this capability in a meaningful way. And now my current role, Vice President and the Head of Data Analytics and AI at Capgemini in Canada, it's a great title, but really underneath it, what it means is it's my team and I, we have the opportunity to support Canadian businesses coast to coast as they go through different elements of this journey to try to unlock value from data, try to leverage AI, everything from your kind of strategy phase or idea incubation phase to actually being able to drive out capabilities, models, AI solutions in a fully scalable, fully enterprise production manner. And we have the opportunity to do that across all the major industries in Canada. So it's been a great journey, and I'm very excited about where all these technologies are now converging at the moment. And I think there's going to be some interesting, days ahead for businesses in this country over the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, so we are hoping for the best times for the businesses. Yeah. And what were some pivotal moments or key experiences that shaped your career path?
I would tell you there's probably three things. Number one is when I was in an internal sort of COE role, internal IT technology role, I very much found myself being frustrated by how long it took to get data out of systems and to how to get insights from that data. And that was sort of that initial sort of inflection point to say, hey, I think I can help solve this problem. So why don't I move and kind of pivot my career? That was number one. Number two is after going through a rigorous, 2-year effort to get an investment to build a data science capability, advanced analytics capability. After spending those 2 years with the organization I was at, doing roadshow after roadshow, executive conversation after executive conversation, say, here's why this investment was worthwhile. This is what it can do to your business. Here's the type of insights you'll be able to gain. After going through that for 2 years and realizing how difficult it is, how important it is for organizations to make that kind of investment in a critical stage in their evolution as well, it sort of naturally then made me kind of pivot to say, hey, can I take all the lessons that I've learned, all the pain that I've suffered, and make this easier for other organizations? So that was number two. And number three, I would tell you is I very much am somebody who has stayed in the world of technology, not because I nerd out about the latest tech, but it's because I really do love the opportunity, really nourish the opportunity to help show, mold and shape future talent, diverse talent to be able to work in this field, to be able to accelerate their career paths as well, and also to be able to work with our clients who are going through these journeys. And so that was a third inflection point for my career to say, all these things coming together, it's almost like a natural fit that I have the role that I have today.
Right, Steven, your journey is truly inspiring and sets the stage for our discussion today. Moving forward, let's discuss about the generative AI implementation. Canadian organizations have been increasingly implementing generative AI since 2023. Could you shed light on how these businesses have integrated generative AI into their operations and what benefits they have seen so far?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And I'll tell you, our Capgemini Research Institute does an annual report now around the adoption of generative AI. Last year, when we did this report in 2023, about 93% of the Canadian businesses we surveyed said generative AI is very much a topic of conversation at the board level, right? This year, when we did that survey again, that's now increased to 96%, right? And it's interesting where as that's increased, there's also been a maturity in terms of understanding how to use this technology. Last year, a lot of confusion around what this is, a lot of potentially buy into some early stage hype cycle, if you will, around what it could do as well. But as the technology has matured and our leaders have matured around how to leverage technology, there's very clearly 3 areas of a business that are kind of coming right to the top in terms of where the value and the return on investment can be gained. Those 3 areas are very much in the world of IT, being able to leverage generative AI for things like coding assistant or QA assistant. It's very much in sales, looking at generative AI to support sales transactions, chatbots, as well as just self-service in general. And the other area is marketing, where we are seeing generative AI used in personalized campaigns, for example. Those 3 areas are very much kind of the top 3 different areas of a business's value chain where we're seeing the application of generative AI. And then there's others underneath it, but those 3 are very much sort of leading the way at the moment.
Okay. And can you shed light on the specific sectors or industries have been the early adapters of generative AI basically in this region, Canada?
What I love about this journey of generative AI is that it's very different from all of the other boons in technology that we've seen in the past, right? For example, when cloud came in the late 90s and early 2000s, to even something more recent, like, for example, RPA. When I was very much involved in that RPA sort of boon as well. And I remember very clearly, like, RPA was always seen as something interesting, something that could provide some efficiencies for a business, but it was never a topic of conversation at the board level. Generative AI is, the reason it is that it's largely being driven by consumers, right? So last year, we did a survey and found that 73% of Canadian consumers, Canadians in general, trust content generated by generative AI, right? That was astonishing. I did not expect it to be that high, that's 73%. So now what businesses have seen is consumers are getting value from generative AI, right? And that's then allowed them to kind of say, hey, this is something that we probably can really pay attention to. And yes, all of business, majority of business leaders we work with in Canada understand there's a risk, but 78% of those business leaders believe that the risks are outweighed by the benefit of what can be delivered with generative AI. So the 2 areas or the 2 industries that are leading the way is very interesting because traditionally you would assume they would be laggards. in terms of adopting a new technology. And those two industries in Canada that are kind of leading the way today are retail and financial services. And in both of those areas, those sectors have prioritized applications of generative AI that can drive the customer engagement, and also looking at driving internal productivity. Because as everybody knows, productivity is a significant challenge for us in this country. And so being able to unlock tangible outcomes has been tremendous. And there has been some really good early returns on this, by the way. So out of the organizations we surveyed in terms of the results that have been achieved by generative AI, there's been an increase of 4.3% in terms of year-over-year sales attributed to generative AI. And there has been a 6.6% increase in terms of productivity attributed to generative AI. Now, that number of, for example, 4.3% increase in sales may seem small, but given our economy, many organizations would love to take 4.3% of an increase in sales at this year.
Right. Thank you for sharing those insights with us, Steven.
Yeah.
By early 2024, this year, nearly 1 in 7 Canadian businesses were using or planning to use generative AI. What has been, as per your experience, been the most surprising benefit or for businesses adopting the generative AI?
You know what? The benefits do vary in terms of the organizations that we talk to and other organizations we worked with. And it largely depends on the sector, right? For example, many of the regulated industries in our country are seeing a lot of return, a lot of benefit, and a lot of value to be able to use generative AI, not only to increase the customer engagement, but to actually increase employee productivity. And these organizations, for the large part, have taken a really great approach. What they've looked at is taking a look at processes, interactions in their business that create friction, right? That naturally create friction, that are more difficult, that create an additional administrative burden for employees or a step or two extra clicks for customers, and have looked at bringing in generative AI to those areas to try to minimize that friction, right? And as they're minimizing that friction, it's actually increasing the employee engagement, because now employees have a tool that they can use to take care of some of those mundane tasks that they traditionally have had to do on their own, whatever it may be. And productivity is increasing, the NPS score is increasing along with that, right? So that's been great to see. And in other areas where we're seeing just a very good return is very much around what I've talked about, productivity. There's been a 3.3% decrease in terms of overall operating cost for businesses that have used generative AI year over year. And a lot of that is coming down to areas like, for example, coding assistants or QA assistants that have been able to do things just a little bit faster, increase the usage. And these assistants, by the way, are not taking away jobs from Canadians. These assistants are very much in the mode today where they're just enabling Canadian engineers and developers to just do their jobs better, more effectively. And that's really great to see.
Yeah. It's really fascinating, Steven, to see how quickly the generative AI is being adopted and the tangible benefits it brings to various sectors. Now, I have a question from my, for my audience. What is your key piece of advice for the businesses who are still exploring the generative AI for the business?
One of the common questions that we get from leaders across all sectors is, do I need to have my data perfect before I can use generative AI, right? The simple answer to that is you will never have your data perfect. Data quality is not a one-time thing. It's an continuous improvement endeavor, right? Ongoing endeavor. So where we've seen success is organizations that have been able to take, a subset of their data. Like, for example, an organization that may say, I'm not very sure about my overall marketing data, but this customer record that I have, I'm very confident in. I'm pretty sure that that's accurate. Let me see if I can apply generative AI to that area. So focusing on one area of your business and applying generative AI to one area of your business, experimenting, innovating, seeing what the results are, a great approach. And that's much more an approach that's going to be a better return for your own investment of time than trying to look at something, wide-ranging or big bang in nature right off the get-go. Because we have to remember, the first time you use something new like this, what you're effectively doing as a business, as an organization, is you're kind of building muscle memory, right? You're making some new synapses in your brain. You're building this muscle memory of how to leverage this technology, what you need to do, what you need from a partner, or what you need from a technology provider. And all of this requires a degree of experimentation. So focusing on one area of a business where you believe that value can be driven. And if you think that one area of the business is connected to sales, marketing, or something to do with IT operations, you're largely going to find good results from our own experience.
Right. So you mean to say start by focusing on one area and see how it works, then move on to another area.
Absolutely. Right? Because, one of the things that generative AI will tell you very quickly is if you actually have a data problem or not, right? Because But when you start using the solutions and you start using these tools, for example, with large language models, as you start interacting with it with your own data, you'll very quickly find out if the data is reliable, it's quite high quality, and you'll want to do that experimentation before opening up the opportunity for your customers, for example, to act with that AI solution.
I want to take a moment to talk to our listeners out there about the impact of generative AI on Canadian businesses. It's truly remarkable how quickly this technology is being adopted across various sectors. Imagine the possibilities when AI can generate creative content, optimize business processes, and provide deeper insights into market trends. It's an exciting time for innovation. Let's discuss the responsible AI guidelines. Like with the rapid adoption of AI technologies, like developing robust guidelines for responsible AI usage has become a priority. What are some of the key considerations and challenges businesses face in this area?
It's a great question. And I'll tell you, this is one area where we have seen a marked increase in terms of the recognition of some of the challenges, some of the concerns, some of the biases associated with generative AI. Last year, when we did our survey, about the executives that we interviewed, 40% of them sort of raised their hand and said, I think there's a challenge here, and I'm a little bit concerned about the potential bias, potential lack of visibility in terms of the training data that was used to build this model. That number is now 78%, right? So year over year went from 40% to 78%. And of the Canadian businesses that we've interviewed and surveyed, 45% now have guidelines for use of generative AI. I would say transparently, that number's too low. That number's too low. It's got to be closer to probably 80 or 90%, because I think what businesses are missing who are not developing those guidelines today is that your employees are probably already using generative AI and you just don't know, right? That's really like the circumstance. So if we bring it back to how do you set up a framework to operate generative AI effectively, what do you need to kind of watch out for? The number one thing is, if generative AI is not embedded into your overall strategy, or AI in general is not embedded into your overall business strategy, don't do it. Don't do it, because you need to have a clear sense of where you want to apply the technology, where you will enable this technology to be used. Equally important, where you will not enable this technology to be used, where it's just going to be kind of a firewall and you're not going to get into that area. But having a very clear understanding of the use cases and business processes that are going to leverage the technology and what you won't be using it for, critically important. As part of that strategy, you'll very quickly understand the type of skills you'll need as a business. Either you're going to purchase those skills or you're going to build those skills in-house, but you'll have a very clear understanding of that. And you'll have a very clear understanding of the type of data you're willing to expose, because this world of generative AI is very net new. There's different type of providers with different commercial arrangements, and they will use your data in different ways, right? So you have to have a very clear understanding of what exactly are you sending to that commercial model, and what are you receiving back? Do you have confidence and visibility into that? If you don't have the confidence and visibility, try to step away and to maybe go down an alternate route. We're very much looking at that. Now, the way you safeguard yourself in terms of the actual development and deployment of generative AI, nothing is ever going to be 100% risk mitigated, but I would tell you there's 3 steps you can take to just significantly diminish your risk. Number 1, always keep a human in the loop. Never have generative AI initially run on autopilot, because then there's been several examples of some of the downfalls that can happen with that. Number 2, very much ensure that you have clear transparency and clear visibility of the data that you're using and the data that you're sending to a model to be able to return some kind of output. If you don't have that clarity, if it's a bit of a black box, again, step away and very much focus on value add use cases, right? Don't look at initially coming in of leveraging generative AI in a very potentially challenging, way for your business, looking at a way for it to add value. And then that inherently will help build the right culture in your organization around how to leverage this technology as well.
Thank you for sharing those insights, Steven. Before we continue, let's take a short break to thank our sponsors who make this podcast possible. During this break, you will hear from some of the fantastic sponsors who support us and help us bring this content to you.
You dreamt big. You made the leap. You and your "we're not stopping at small" business. Doesn't matter you've never done it before. You unlock those problems. You adapt to change. You learn to evolve. You're pioneers in challenging times, finding your own frontiers. Wherever you e-commerce, UPS is with you. So nothing is going to hold you back.
4 billion people check their email every day. That's 4 billion missed opportunities if your message doesn't make it. To reach your customer's inbox, you need a winning strategy. And Constant Contact delivers. Literally, over 97% deliverability. Elevate your email game with easy-to-use templates, writing assistants powered by AI, and in-depth metrics. Ensuring your email is flawless, delivered, and read. Constant Contact delivers. Give it a try.
At IHG Hotels and Resorts, we're in the business of you.
We're here to help you plug in,
connect, and recharge.
make an impression,
and meet with confidence.
With 19 brands built for business,
your business gets even more rewarding.
With an award-winning loyalty program at 6,000 IHG hotels and resorts worldwide.
Welcome back. In our next segment, we will explore the exciting world of generative AI. Generative AI has been a game changer for many organizations, providing sustainable opportunities and opening up new possibilities. Steven, how important is it for businesses to establish these guidelines as you discuss, like early in their AI journey?
You know what? I'll tell you, the sooner you establish the guidelines, the better you are in terms of mitigating potentially some of the risks and challenges with associating any new technology. Going back to my earlier point, I do believe if the number is accurate and our survey is accurate, about 45% of Canadian businesses have developed those guidelines. That is far too low, because my belief is that employees in those organizations that don't have those guidelines in place are leveraging generative AI already. I'll tell you, I have a 9-year-old daughter, and she uses 3 different AI tools. All of those tools under our supervision, but it is something
9 years old.
9 years old.
Okay.
And, it's everything, for example, around a common Copilot,
Right.
where she interacts with it for different search, but she's also very creative. And she's asked us to use 2 different AI solutions. One is a music generator, so a song generator, and she goes in, she types in prompts, and it spits out a result, and she fine tunes with some prompt engineering to get the type of song she wants. And she's also a little kind of creative author, and so she writes stories on paper initially. She types it into Microsoft Word, she copies and pastes it into a different tool, which will then take her story and create a podcast for me, right? So this is a 9-year-old who's
Right.
very comfortable with technology. So if you can imagine early professionals in your business who are very comfortable with technology as well, they're likely using this. And what you
Right.
want to do is provide some guidelines around here's what's acceptable from our point of view in terms of what you can ask or what you can do with a commercial model or publicly available AI solution. And here's where we want you to kind of step away, because we have to keep in mind those publicly available AI solutions are public, and they consume your data
Right.
and everything that you type into it, and they learn from it, they ingest it, and they potentially can use it for results that a competitor or another organization will inquire, right? So we gotta make sure that number is far too low. We have to get that number higher as a business, as a country, in terms of 80-90% of our organizations having the guidelines to interact with generative AI.
Right. Yeah, Steven, it's really understanding the importance of responsible AI practice is very crucial for sustainable and ethical business growth in any country, for any business.
yeah.
Right. I want to take a pause here and connect with our audience on the importance of responsible AI practices. Establishing guidelines early in your AI journey is very crucial. It's not just about leveraging the latest technology, but doing so in a way that ensures ethical and sustainable growth. For all the business owners listening, consider how you can implement these practices to safeguard your company's future. Now let's discuss the benefits of generative AI, in a little bit of details. Generative AI has been a game changer for many organizations, providing substantial opportunities and opening up new possibilities. What are some of the significant benefits that organizations have reaped from implementing this technology? Can you share any success stories or case studies with our audience?
We can, absolutely. And I'll tell you, this is where there has been a lot of maturity of thinking as well. Last year when we surveyed through our annual report, many of the executives, there was an overall feeling amongst those executives that generative AI was going to be a disruptor. That was the kind of the key word we heard getting here back and back. It was around 70% of the executives said, yeah, this is going to be a disruptor. Now, when we've done the survey, the key word that we're getting it back is now 68% believe that generative AI is going to be an accelerator, right? So not a disruptor, but an accelerator. Accelerating sort of this journey that they're already on and accelerating some of the outcomes that we're looking for, right? So where have we seen some really great applications of generative AI? I'll tell you, one of the early use cases that we worked with is a generative AI solution that would automatically build marketing content for new products a client was developing, right? So this client would develop various products, consumer packaged goods, and every time a product would be developed, traditionally, you would have an entire kind of army of individuals who would go in, create everything from photos for that product, blog posts for that product, marketing descriptions to sell on different, omni channels. And now a lot of that is largely being aided by generative AI, right? So it doesn't replace the work these individuals are doing, but it allows them to do it faster. Right. Now you can do it in a much more accelerated way. And so that's where that 6.6% increase in productivity is coming from, is using, solutions like
different tools, right?
Exactly, for generative AI for those kind of purposes. That's been great. Now, one of the things I mentioned that I really do enjoy and appreciate about the journey that we're on is that it's being led by industries and sectors that historically people would have stereotyped as laggard. I mentioned financial services in the past and retail. Energy and utilities is another area where we are seeing the use of generative AI. And many of the energy companies that operate in this country are heavily regulated, very, very heavily regulated. Have to do everything from 1,000-page report filings to different provincial bodies to annual sustainability reports to things of that nature. Some of those things take a really long time to develop, right? And some of those things are actually like 18-month endeavors for many organizations. And so we're seeing generative AI being applied in really impactful ways in those sectors where we're looking at generative AI that will go in and allow an organization to have a chatbot that it reviews and understands the last 20 years of filings that you've done to the provincial government. And now you can ask it questions to say, hey, in 1999, what did we state in our filing report on this topic? And it would spit it out. And you now no longer have to search through thousands of PDFs to get that data. Fantastic, immense value add, immense potential, and just a significant opportunity to improve employee engagement for that business as well. And those are just some, just very two top of mind examples for me of where we're seeing generative AI being applied today.
Right. It's quite amazing to see how generative AI has made the job simpler for many organizations. And now, as you said, businesses are starting to see generative as an aid, which is helping. It's a very good tool available for making their job easier.
Yes.
Now, let's discuss about the future innovations, Steven. The AI and data analytics industry is constantly evolving with groundbreaking innovations on the horizon. Looking ahead, what future innovations can we expect from Capgemini in the field of AI and data analytics?
I love that question. I'll tell you, this is something we were very much early adopters in as an organization. Globally, we've committed to investing about $3.5 billion Canadian in terms of the usage of generative AI. Underneath that, there's two meaningful things that we're focused on. So number one, we very quickly set a goal to say we want 8,000 of our people trained and upskilled technically on generative AI, how to engineer generative AI solutions, how to develop engineering solutions, architect these solutions.
8,000 people, it's a big task.
Big task. I'll tell you, we reached that number. We're now as we're recording this, we're in August. We reached that number at the end of June. So we were already there by the end of June at the halfway point of the year to meet that goal, which is great to see. And the other thing that we've developed is what we call an AI Futures Lab, right? To really understand practical applications of this technology. Because one of the things of operating this world and in being in this world is that it's constantly changing. Every day there's new innovation. Every week I get an alert from one of my alert systems to say X company has released a language model that is now the most accurate, and it has overcome the previous standards that have been set, right? That happens on a weekly basis. And one of the things that is a challenge for many businesses today is when it comes to selecting the right AI partner, there is no standard today in terms of how to have a commercial arrangement. It's not the same as, for example, how how easy it has become to purchase a cloud service, right? There's different commercial arrangements and there's different nuances in terms of how data is being consumed and the data that, how secure that data is going to be ultimately. So what we're focused on as a business is to say, let's keep the focus and the lens on practical applications. Let's keep the focus in the lens on making sure we can be able to guide our Canadian clients through that journey, regardless of where they are on that particular curve of the journey. And what we want to focus on is very much helping organizations engineer the right infrastructure to be able to support generative AI solutions. One of the questions I sometimes get is related to this question is, tell me about the top skills that are in demand. And is prompt engineering still the most important skill for a young professional to focus on in order to have a long and prosperous career? And it's interesting is over the course of a year, what's happened is prompt engineering is certainly important, but it's actually just become embedded as part of the data science skill set, right? So it's just kind of merged together, become part of a skill set of data scientists as I learned. And what's actually becoming very clear to organization is that engineering layer for data, if we don't have that layer of systems and tooling and technology rock solid and in place, it is going to limit not your ability to actually experiment with generative AI. What it will do is limit your ability to scale it in a cost-effective and safe way. So we are supremely focused on that engineering layer to make sure we build the right solutions. One of the things that we're most proud of is a recent solution we called Raise. Raise is essentially Raise, okay. RAISE, okay. And it essentially stands for Reliable AI Engineering Solutions at Scale, right? And so what Raise does is that it helps organizations have a interference layer between their data and a commercial model, right? And it says, we are going to enable, the commercial model to interact with these types of questions. But if a customer asks a question about X or Y, maybe it's something, sensitive like politics. Right. We're not going to pass that along to the...
It's like a firewall, you can say. Yeah.
It's almost like a firewall. It's like you're only going to interact with this. Yeah. And the great thing about Raise is that you can pick a certain number of questions, certain number of inquiries, and then ask that same question or inquiry to a multitude of different language models, and it will help you understand which one is the best language model to use for that use case. So that's a type of solution we're going to continue to build more of and to continue to expand, because as these capabilities become more mature, as organizations have more choice, what we are trying to do is to help organizations make sure they're not locked into anything on a long-term basis, but rather they can use the best of a potential solution for that particular use case that they have in mind.
Stephen, after listening to your thoughts and insights, I believe the future of AI and data analytics is indeed promising. And we look forward to seeing these innovations that you discussed unfold. Friends, I want to share some thoughts on the future of AI and data analytics. The innovations on the horizon are set to revolutionize how businesses operate. From predictive analytics to advanced automation, the potential is limitless. As we discuss these advancements, think about how your business can stay ahead of the curve and harness these technologies for growth and success. Before we wrap up, Stephen, could you share some advice for business owners looking into integrating AI into their operations?
It's a very good question, and I'll tell you my number one recommendation is don't be afraid to explore. Exploration and innovation is something that you can do today, and there are very much free solutions that are very strong, very robust, very mature that you can experiment with. And this goes for everybody at the enterprise level down to the SMB level. And even at the SMB level, I have the opportunity to talk to small businesses, and I tell them, I'm pretty sure one of the things that you sometimes have to grapple with is a really tricky email. Maybe you're a business to business, small business, and there's your own cost have increased, right? And with that cost increase, you need to draft a very tricky email to your client to say, hey, we're going to have a increase to our costs that will increase your expenses next year. Why not use generative AI to tackle that very tricky email? Ask it to draft a sensitive and diplomatic email and see what comes back. And that's going to be a great example of how you can start innovating with this and how you can see that maybe what you do is just spend 5 minutes to review an email as opposed to taking a couple hours to put together something really sensitive and intense and see if this can provide value to you as a business. So don't be afraid to innovate and experiment. Do so in a very safe way with some of the more trusted tools. And I think you'll get some early outcomes that can be wins for your business.
Thank you, Steven, for sharing your valuable insights and your advice with our audience today. It was a great pleasure hosting you.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to doing it again.
Thank you.
All right.
Today we discuss the journey of integrating generative AI into Canadian businesses, the importance of responsible AI guidelines, and the numerous benefits these technologies bring. Steven's expertise has provided us with a deeper understanding of the evolving landscape of AI and its impact on business growth. We also thank our partners, exclusive banking partner RBC, exclusive shipping partner UPS, exclusive email partner Constant Contact, our exclusive hospitality partner IHG, and our tech partner Google. Don't forget to subscribe to the Canadian SME Small Business Magazine by visiting our official website canadiansme.ca. Thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to bringing you more insightful episodes.